I'm very happy to introduce to you the masterclass Yuma. It is very simple. There is a class A, a class B, and a section C. In the class A, I will explain to you in my English the best I can about how this Danza Duende network has been created and what is the story behind it and what are the foundations. In the section B, I will give exercises and basic tools, very important. And then in the section C, we will be several artists and people explaining how in our own right each one of us has evolved in completely different kinds of work and kinds of manifestations, but we have in common this structure and this vision. So thank you very much, and I really wish this will be useful for the benefit and the happiness of all beings. Okay, hello. So let's take a little moment. So this is the Masterclass Yuma, section A, and this is the fifth, number 5 of the section A. I have a few good news, but first please remember to like this video if you do like it, and remember to share it, and also if you can engage conversation in the YouTube channel under the video itself. It's very useful, because even if you're looking at it from Facebook and then you could get into YouTube, because that helps the channel to have a little bit more people. I'm not looking for too much, I just looking for enough people so that this can be alive and turning around and having good energy. So I have good news. Actually, it's already happening, because a lot of women, so far women, are helping with this project. And so some of the people who are offering to help are really people that maybe I was not expecting, but it's happening. So we have already a team working on French translation. Some people of that team actually are also singing the poetries in my romance, which is called The Island of B, and it is not yet translated into English, this romance, but it will, I hope, hopefully be translated into English. It is already translated into Portuguese, but not yet published. About news, also the other book, which is called The Dancing Path, which is the story, kind of romanced of my life, and is a book that was actually asked to me a long time ago. They asked me to write about my life, because when I was a young woman, I became very famous in France, because I published, I was the, how could you say that? I was a model for an advertisement that became worldly very famous, and specifically in France. And so because of that, they wanted to know about my adventures and my life. And so that book is called The Dancing Path, and that book exists also in Italian and twice in French. The last edition in French is from Belgium and is more complete. So actually, if you want to get that book in French, La Voix qui danse, I can put under the video the links, and there you can look for the Belgium edition. So that's all the news. So that's good news. I'm going to talk a little bit slowly, because some of the people who are translating don't always have a easy job understanding me, so I will look forward to speak a little bit slow. So we talked about dance, we talked about duende, we talked about the network, and the Danza Duende network is the topic because it is a mandala. What does that mean? That means that it is a field. It's a field that wants to open the possibility to create structures for human wisdom to be manifest. So this is very important to understand that in this case, we take the dance as a mean, but also in the same time as a practice, as an action, as a source. And it ends up with the possibility that the dance is the manifestation itself of the field of wisdom. So field is the word for mandala in this case. Field of wisdom is like a mandala of wisdom. This opens up to the contrast, dichotomy of perception between what we would call chaos or chaos. I don't know in English if it's chaos or chaos, and order. So like if you take a water crystal, for example, depending on how the organization of that water will crystallize at the moment that you are observing it, that water will give a form, and that's what we call information. Information is how inside the form, in is inside, and inside the form there is a code, there is something. So inside your dance, inside your music, inside your speech, inside your presence, inside your body, and then inside your family, inside your house, inside your relationship, there is a code which is introduced by unconscious behaviors and also very, very often unconscious motivations. Because maybe your primordial motivation was something that you were aware of, but maybe you think your motivation is still that motivation, but in the meanwhile it changed and you did not notice. This is what happened to me. So I'm coming back a little bit to go forwards and backwards about my story and the training and the project. It's very important because if we are going to give tools, if we're going to talk about structure and tools and the philosophic of this project, it's very important that whoever is serious about listening to these conferences, it's very important to have the vision of this project that is accurate as much as possible, because in the realm of concept, we are always wrong. So we have to be a little bit humble that we do listen, we do understand, but something is always escaping. So this is how we can relate to each other. Because if we think what I perceive and I understand is the truth and what you say is not the same, then we enter into this chaos, which is workable as an artist, and that's what actually we're doing. But if you want the field of wisdom to exist, you have to have both. So that's what you're doing. You're creating slowly a possibility that your own consciousness can, in the same time, work on different levels. And that's very important nowadays, because we do live in a world where the field of material creativity, which is technologics, do have a very sophisticated power, which is extreme power, and which make us responsible for the fact that we can really deserve and be aware of what this power is, like the power that I talk to you now through a machine, and that somehow maybe lots of people maybe will listen to what I'm saying. I need not to be worried about it, but to be present to that reality, in the sense that my own person, my own body, I have also that technologic in my own consciousness, not only in the phone. You're going to maybe think, this is about dance. What is she saying? But actually, by the dance, when you understand that dance is how we learn things as a child, and that's why you really need, as a human being, to be like, I would say, helped somehow, if you can, in order to find how you can be in touch with all of your richness, your treasure, through the fact that your body is a place where you can relax mentally. So how is it that you could relax mentally without switching off chaos, not switching off your life, not switching out spontaneity of who you are? How could you in the same time feel this structure of harmony, of the field of wisdom, the mandala, the crystallization? How it becomes harmony. What is harmony? Harmony is when things are healthy. It's basically health. Health is a place where you feel okay, where you feel joyful, where you feel simple. So health is, of course, physical, but it goes beyond the body, because the body is just transit. It's a transition. But you could feel in the same time this harmony, and in the same time you let it be as it is, which is also everything that expresses through us that is actually chaotic. The difference here is that instead of being completely led by the horse that is wild and that has absolutely, you have no control on that horse, you know, the horse of your creativity, I would say. So the horse of your own, how is it that I deal with energy? Energy of the breath, energy of my bones, energy of my blood, energy of all of my lymphatic and nervous system. How is all that wonderful, incredible relationship with the universe that is always flowing inside of what I call myself, but actually has absolutely no way that I could find where does it start and where does it stop if you really look into it seriously. How is it that I can at least be in charge of my own part? and that means that I can deal with myself and dig the treasure. You know, like you go and you dig, or you go on maybe you go on a boat, and then the boat goes to an island, and then in the island you have the treasure. You know, it's always like that. So this is the journey, no? The initiatic journey of the artist in this case, because we're talking about art. I'm talking about dance, but actually you will see that in this relationship with dance, you are really entering into all arts, and how arts are the first movement of a child. Language is art. Actually, I had this information from the Karmapa, the 17th Karmapa, personally, because I asked him the question as a translator for an interview, and that's what he told me. The first art is language, which is absolutely accurate. So we are talking and listening, so we are doing the art of listening, the art of talking, which nowadays also we really, really need to come back to that sacredness of what is it we are listening and saying, and what does that create as an energy. Okay, so come back to the fields of wisdom. It's a place that you do create, but it is alive, so you do not have control on it. You have control on your own energy, and you do create a container for that, because the fields of wisdom in the Danza Duende network, they are opened and closed like any mandala. You cannot let it open all the time, because it is too much, too difficult. Okay? You need to have moments that actually you let it be, and moments that you make it happen. So this is what I want to talk about. This talk is going to be a little bit longer than other because it's a very delicate talk. This talk is a transition from the concept of the words danza, duende, network, the story of this project, how was it created, why that happened to me. I did not say all of it, but at least I said the basic things we need to know. But now we're getting into the link between this experience of mine, the experience of many other people that I was lucky enough to understand or meet or be sensitive about, and that did give to me the light, did give to me, you know, the light of the sun is now everywhere here in this room, and this is how you can see me. I have no electrical light on right now. This is only from the sunshine. And this sunshine in our own being, because everything which we see out of us is somehow also in us, because there's not really any way you can be sure what is out and what is in. So you just relax about that. But what you can be sure about is how you deal with your body, how you deal with your speech, and what that intention of yours, that motivation of yours, is actually now. Did you stay related to that seed, which is the primordial seed of your real motivation, or did you just not notice that somehow something made you get fooled by your own distraction? Everybody does. So the example of that is for us very easy, because nowadays we have social medias. So how can I have a primordial motivation, which would be something that is very important, that it is about life itself. And when I say life itself, the best way, in my point of view, to find out is these extreme moments of when a baby is born. You are there, maybe it's your own baby, but maybe you're helping a woman to have a baby. That's a moment of truth. If you are, for example, on the top of a very high mountain, if you are in the middle of the ocean on a little boat and there's a lot of wind, if you are about to die, if you are near somebody who is about to die, if you are in the midst of great horror, if you are in the midst of great bliss, when you have a truly amazing, overwhelming orgasm, when you are fully into that music, that dance, that song, when you are fully into that communication with several people who manage at one moment to feel how much they are absolutely never, ever separated. It's a feeling direct. It's not something that you explain. It's something that is directly the truth. You feel it. So these are the things that are truly important. So like if I would feel now is my last time, it's only a few minutes, that's important at that moment. I will really see if it was really important or not to gather lots of money, which I will not bring with me. Was it so important about all these people that I always crave to? They're not going to come with me. What I mean is not that you don't love them, but is it so important, the craving process of having some kind of a give and take relationship that leads us from love into hate, which happens so many times, no? Look at what happens when a war happens. It's usually people who loved each other. And because some other people managed to convince them that they are enemies, they just go for it, no? It's a lot of karma. It means a lot of information, which inside of the form, there was an information, there was a code, and that code makes you do something that was maybe your primordial motivation, maybe not. So if what you are doing is not your, it's not based on your primordial motivation, actually, you are getting driven in that ocean in a boat that's not going where you want to go. It's going somewhere else, maybe nowhere actually, because when you're on the ocean, it's quite important to have a little bit an idea, more or less, no, what you're doing. This is about, you know, becoming adult, no? Becoming adult is about a human kindness being born, that you feel that you make sense. So my motivation was that one, and then suddenly, because I put a picture of myself on Instagram, my motivation gets driven somewhere else. And I get distracted. And I don't even notice that I'm feeling lots of things that have nothing to do with my original motivation. And it's very tricky, because we can get really tricked by, and that's what makes it funny. That's why we should not, at least it's nice to try not to get, how could I explain that? Not to get into extremes, because there's also always something that is happening it's in two opposite ways. It's like we inspire and expire, no? Like we have right and left. And so this is going to drive us into the training of how you work with your body. Your body is all about oppositions that actually you are going to use as life itself. So it's not opposition at the end, no? And this will become very, as I talk in other videos and as we get into section B and specifically B, you will find a little bit more into practice. What is it I'm talking about now? Okay, so be very present to things I'm explaining. Even if you think you don't understand what I'm saying, you will. Okay, you will just maybe need to listen to it more, but you will understand, because it's really part of a real experience. I have no doubt, because it's a long time I have been experiencing all this that nowadays I can talk about. So I know it now. At the beginning, I was trying, no? So you get driven away. Sometimes you get driven away by very good intentions, but that was not the real thing, okay? So sometimes you get driven away by very bad motivations, but you just don't resist that, you know? So in that case, have to be smart. How can you use that energy in the sense that actually at the end you can end up making friends with that horse, with that dragon, with that energy, and bring it back to the primordial motivation. So this is very, very basically talking about mandala and first thought, best thought. Okay? So now we're getting into what will be explained in section B. It will start by first thought, best thought. What is first thought, best thought? It is a definition that was given by Chögyam Trungpa Rinpoche, which I did end up using, even though I actually discovered that alone in my own, how would I say, challenges through my life as a dancer. And then I ended up discovering that first thought, best thought was exactly the same thing as that thing that I did discover. And now I will tell you a little bit how that happened. This is why this video is going to be a little bit longer. Or maybe it will be, I will see. If it gets too long, we will make several about the same topic. So this first thought, best thought is how something comes out of yourself which you did not elaborate. And now this is going to be in the same time, this paradox I was talking about earlier, is that in the same time you did not elaborate it, but actually the whole, how you say in English, fabric of your being is elaborated. So everything we do is working on that fabric of how we are used to be, the habits. I talked about that in further other videos before. This habit. So the whole thing is about habits, because dance is completely free, but this habit is what solidificate material is made of. So you cannot avoid the fact that everything depends on how much you can make your habits become flexible. It's not that you have no more habits, it's just that they breathe, they become flexible so that you can slowly make that fabric become much more diverse. You could have this fabric could be silk, and then it could become a stone, and then it could become completely white, and then it could become maybe metal. You see, so all these different consistencies of life as a human being, which is very intelligent and extremely able to create power and to create tools and to be very efficient into destruction and also into the opposite of destruction, but also into making happy all beings, creating fields of health. It's something that we can do. It's just that we need to have this motivation in in order so that we don't get leaded in another direction, and then suddenly you're 80 years old and you notice that you lost the train next time. So this first thought, best thought is going to appear without elaboration. So it means that if you decided to sing a song, you have no idea, not a clue, what is going to come out. If you decided to make a gesture, you have no clue what gesture that will be, and etc. Whatever it is. And then at the moment when it's happening, the discipline is that you can actually relax enough and in the same time be very present, so that when it comes out, it really comes out before you elaborate. And so you are actually being witness of that very simple thing that came out. It's something that everybody can understand, because when you get into the practice, the basics of this is extremely simple. We actually do it all the time. When I talk, I don't know, I did not prepare this talk. Okay, it comes from first thought, best thought, but it comes in the fabric of my habits. How is that field of my own presence being accurate, so that everything that comes out would come out of that source of my true motivation. But of course, if you want to get into that work, you have to find out how much lots of things come out that are absolutely not your true motivation. And so this is where you work with these things that come out. They come out like fear, like anger, like maybe in the beginning they can come out with lots of chaos or chaos. I don't know how you say that in English. Chaos? I think it's chaos. And maybe naturally it comes out very simple and very peaceful. That depends. It doesn't matter that much. What matters is that you keep on faithful to that string of consciousness, into the act of creating, and creating what you say, what you cook, And then, of course, dance could be that place where you evolve the awareness. So at one point, I had to give lessons to some people in a professional school in Porto a very long time ago. And I was not expecting to do that. And I was not really, it was not very easy for me to know how I would teach. It's not that I'm not a born teacher, because I am. I always liked to teach as I was a child already. I had that thing naturally. But I didn't know how to deal with the situation, which was that I already had intuition about the Danza Duende, but it was not yet elaborated as a project. It was something intuitive. And so I wanted to teach to my young students. It was nice because they were really young. They were 14, 15. And I wanted to teach something to them that would give to them the opportunity to create sensibility and intuition about all these things I'm telling you now, that now I'm able to explain. At that time I was not. But I had already that intuition. So as I told you in last video, I got out of retreat after dancing in retreat, a new dance which was not anymore the classical dance. It was not anymore any kind of dance rooted into a specific tradition, but I had all this knowledge inside of my body, the habit, you know, this fabric of habits. I also had a lot of practice into Tibetan yogas and prostrations, and I had a lot of physical, so like 100,000 prostration is a physical experience. So when you do, actually it's 108,000 mil, 8,000, excuse me, 108,000 prostrations, at least, because actually you can do more, and I did more. So this is part of something that comes into your system, because everything you are learning, I already talked about it, we will talk about it much more, is based on repetition. But repetition, of course, is never two times, never twice the same thing, no? If I do like this, it will never be the same, never. I can imagine I'm in a routine, I'm always doing the same, but this is a mind deviation, it's my distraction, because actually if I'm present, there's never twice the same. But the repetition of something that looks the same creates in my brain the possibility that one neurona to the other neurona can get thicker with actually some white substance around it, and it becomes very easy for me to do that specific thing. That would be like speaking better English. That could be dancing, could be piano, could be everything. Everything we do. Everything we do is based on movement, of course. So the movement in its own brings this habit, and the habit in this own brings how much you are in that motivation. So how much that fabric of habits is full of the connection with the source of all universe, of all life, of all what makes you breathe or not. So the habit is where you're working. But as an artist, you're not casting out any of these expressions. You're working on them only in a sense of preserving health, mental health, physical health, psychological health, social health, health of ecologic system, social health. So that's the only thing where you find out that what you are doing, when it becomes very wild, no problem. But in the same time, that wildness becomes part of that offering that is connected to your true motivation. But of course, if your true motivation is the same as what Danza Duende is proposing, that I will explain in another video. So I wanted to create for these young ladies, it was all ladies once more, I wanted, and all these ladies was not on purpose. I never wanted to work specifically about women and on feminine. It just happened to me. It just happened to me. It was not something that I was expecting. And I worked alone, trying to find out how could I do that. Because it's, you know, of course I know how to do plié and how to do this and that. I know how to do lots of things. And as I said, yogas and karate and all these different, very specific disciplines, which I did train very much, you know, like black belt, things like that. It's really training until you get to a certain point that you feel like also music, guitar, things like that. But how do I get into this place with these young ladies and make them connect to the source and in the same time connect to technique? And it was not so easy because you don't have so many different ways of doing that. You know, actually sacred dances are basically related to two kinds of relationship with space and time. So one relationship is that you completely open to the letting yourself be. So that would be like whirling, like trance with breath, trance with movements, trance with maybe rhythm also. Even the rhythm of your feet in flamenco can be trance. It's very lucid trance, but it's trance. Trance means go through. So you go through different states of consciousness. And so you let yourself be into something that gives you a kind of a structure in which you can relax. And that when you relax in that, you get into other kind of openness of your consciousness. And then you discover yourself and you discover all beings in the same time, of course. It's a never-ending discovering. And the other way is to be extremely precise, like in Bharatanatyam, for example. That's a sacred dance. Or in a lot of kind of art that you would have in Bali, or also in Japan. The No theater, you're extremely precise in how you're dealing with energy, with your body, with the details, with your mind, with everything, and it becomes so tight that there's no room for your ego at all. What is ego? It's let's say that ego is that kind of imagination about myself which separates me from the source. Okay, let's put it like that. Okay, so there's no more space for that ego because it cannot be present in that space of mathematic, geometric, like in Bharatanatyam. Your eyes are here, your finger is here, your feet is there, the rhythm is there, and then there's clothes and so many things, no? Or martial art, actually. Even martial art that was a sword is the same. Your life is in danger, so your mind is very, very, very sharp. So all these things make you, or because you relax into trance or into something that gives you a sense of being, of opening, which you are not at all using your mindset, your mental mindset, you're not using it, you're relaxing it totally. And so in that case, the sense of being releases this sense of separation from me and the source of all existence, all space and time, all experiences of beings. But on another hand, if I enter into this very mathematical and very disciplined kind of art, which actually makes me go beyond my fear and beyond my hope and beyond myself, I will also somehow join the other one. So actually these two, they get somewhere where you can join these two ways of finding the source. The source is nothing complicated. Huh? What is complicated is the habit, okay? The distraction, the getting lost in something else, no? Or obsessed in something else. But actually, that source is always there. It's very easy, very simple, very so much simple and so much easy that's why human being has a hard time with it. Mm. So when you sort out your first thought, best thought, it comes out of a state in which you are. Mm. So like imagine I was creating these exercises for these ladies, these young ladies, and then I let myself completely relaxed. And as I'm used to dance and I'm used to lots of things, I could create from that exercise of letting something happen in my body. I was able to work on that thing that happened in my body and create little structures that they could work on. But what's coming from my own spontaneous creation of a composition. But my composition was not about this is so beautiful, it's so nice, it looks like, no, it comes out of a real presence of that source, because what I really wanted was that these young ladies would have something worthy for their lives. Doesn't matter if they have a diploma or not, that they would get out of there with something very worthy. And it did work. And at that time, I had no idea what I was doing. Actually, I was working on first thought, best thought. Like if you do this gesture, with this gesture, you can do the other gesture, but that gesture can be cut, and that gesture can also be done with one hand and the other, because usually maybe you do it more with one hand than the other. And then from that gesture, you can have lots of different things. So actually, that first thought was this. Mm. It's like a seed. Mm. But of course, this is not my hand. The hand is the information which is in the form. Something is there. If there's nothing in the form, you're just moving around making winds. There's a lot of wind already. Maybe a little bit too much. You understand? It's metaphorical. Huh? If elements get wild, life is not possible. But maybe elements need to cleanse. So if your elements in yourself get wild, you have to cleanse. And it's the same in the world. It's not different, it's just the same. If elements are completely wild in the world, it's wild inside. When you're an artist, you really start to feel all of these things. That's why you can get really nuts, you can get out of your mind. I'm sorry if I'm talking too fast for the translators, excuse me. I cannot yet control my speed. Mm. It will get better. Mm. So when you create a solo, for example, so I let go my students at that time, and the first thought how it came to me. I hope you understood a little bit. And remember, we will explain specifically what first thought, best thought is about in this case. And also that first thought and best thought does come out of chaos or comes out of harmony. It depends. Your goal is that it gets out of both in the same time, which Buddhists in Tantra call the co-emerging. Mm. The co-emerging is that you see yourself healthy and harmony and cool and completely connected to the source. And in the same time, you see yourself completely out of your mind and being stupid and being jealous and being outrageous, whatever it is. But as you are present to both of them in the same time, it's okay. Because there's a third thing. The third thing is that father and mother give birth to a baby, and that baby is what happens when both are there in the same time. You don't need to be for mommy or against daddy, or for daddy and against mommy. You just need to find that synergy of both energies. So this is very concrete. And so I'm going to get into what this paradox is about so that we understand how the creation of the solo and the ritual has to do with a journey through meaning that manifests without thinking about it in a very precise, spontaneous composition of a dance. In this case, I will talk about dance. But you can then create other things in the same way you did with dance, because dance is gesture, it's movement, it's presence, which is everything else we do is also movement, gesture, and presence. Okay? So if you say there is a duality in appearances of daddy and mommy, or if you say there is in my system two eyes who see two different things, but they actually create in my brain one single image. I can talk about this because actually I did have brain operations and I did see double. And when I did see double, I did see two things different with one eye. I would see like the lines behind me, I would see them like that. And then I would do like that. And the lines, I would see them like that. And they would be in the same time. I had to live like that for a few months. And you suddenly understand that actually you don't see something. Your brain does create an image of what it is. Your eyes can create like information through the light, the perceptions of light and shadows. So these two, they actually do create a third one. And you understand at that moment when that happens to you that if you use your eye, you get to that cup of milk, and if you use the other eye, the cup of milk is somewhere else, but you get it also. So actually in both cases, you get the cup of milk. When you see both different, it's more difficult. Okay, so this is very, very, very much our reality. It's the same thing with all of our body has right and left, behind, in front, and then of course intermédiaire, no? Diagonal. But you have also what is it to lay down and to stand up, and in between. Yeah? And you have also what is it to inspire and expire. You have two kind of perceptions through the two hemispheres of the brain. So it is all the time happening, but it's an appearance, okay? And so this you really, really need to understand that that's what dance is about. Because your body is completely depending on the rules of weight, energy, material, and geometric, and of course rhythm. The rhythm not only of your heart, but the rhythm of everything that's going on. So actually there's an orchestra going on, like your, I don't know, your liver. The brain is also thinking. The brain is an organ of thoughts, like the liver is an organ of bilis. I mean, what the thoughts are nothing bad. They're just, as everything else, they need health, okay? So it's the same thing as the heart. Everything is there to create energy and to make the energy circulated and get cleansed. And so this part of the dance is the part where you are relating. Let's make it like that. It's not, it's just a metaphor, okay? Don't take it too seriously. Don't get extreme. Stay in the happiness of that dichotomy. Let's say it's daddy, okay? So it's very concrete. This is, I'm going to enter and dance by this door. If I miss the door, maybe I just hurt myself, you know? If I have to dance on a stair, I have to stay on the stair. You know, once upon a time I used to whirl in the stairs when I was a kid. I had to put my feet on the stairs. Maybe I have a sensation of flying, but actually I'm really putting my feet on the stairs. So there is one part of my body that is still absolutely not flying, okay? Absolutely in relationship with the reality of this place now. Like if you have a dance and you take that dance to different places, it is never the same place, it is never the same condition, it is never the same energy, so you always have to recreate it again each time, like cooking. You always have to redo it from the beginning each time, and that's what happens in our life. We have to redo it all the time, every morning, every day. That's the rising sun of Shambhala. That's the air all the time coming back to the freshness of doing it again. This is why you are a beginner. That's what makes you always young. So that is one part. And that part that we just call daddy is obvious. Okay, it's obvious that if you fall the stairs, it hurts, and then maybe... Actually, yesterday I had a little accident and I had to stay the whole day sitting because I hurt a little bit my leg, and now I'm okay, but it's because I missed something. I didn't notice something in the garden, and then my leg bumped into it. And it hurts. And then after I could cure it with clay, and I got really good in clay, and also I took some cabbage, and it's really okay. But all of this is what I was talking about, that is the relative, relying into the relative material phenomena of how things get born and get dead, and they are coming into being born, and then they become into giving fruits, and then they decay and die. That is how it is, okay? And then all the material aspect of weight, of movement. It's very fascinating, of architecture of the movements, and how your spontaneous gesture does exist inside of a geometric. So all of this is extremely concrete. It's concrete, yeah? And it does have pleasure and pain. Okay, so like I hurt myself, or I have a good pleasure in myself, so all of this is concrete. In Buddhism, they call it relative truth. The relative truth is that as much as you didn't want to, you did hurt somebody, and then that's the truth. You just hurt that person even if you didn't want to, so you just have to work with that, That's the way it is. The absolute truth is extremely important. Let's call it mommy. And let's not see them as separated, but let's see them as the depthness of your ocean would be the absolute truth, is that you did not want to hurt that person, actually. You know you didn't, so you just check, Because if you check and you notice you really did hurt it, maybe you can work on it in another way. But when you get really to the deepness of yourself, you didn't, because in the deepness there's no separation, so there's nothing of all this shit. That's why the human being really needs to get there. I mean, it's very, very, very important. So if I can be helpful, I hope I'm giving some kind of desire for most of us to really acquire this technology of our own selves, so that we could really, really be helpful. And you don't need to be helpful to have some recipes that you read in a book. You need to be really in touch with yourself without the book. The book is okay, but that's not, the topic is not the book. The topic is that it did lead you to something that you are really in touch with. And so let's say that the mommy part of that is the depthness, and that in that deepness, the depth of this ocean, there is not really any problem, because there's so much depth, it's so deep there that there's no, it's protected somehow, okay? It's like the nature of your own mind is a place that does not need to be pacified. It does not need to be worried. It does not need to be in fear, because the depth of the nature of our own mind is completely perfect and is completely okay and is completely connected to everything. So that's where wisdom pops up sometimes. And the relative, which is how up there of that ocean there's a lot of movement, there's wind, there's no wind, the sun doesn't shine, the moon, and then it's more moon and less moon, all these things, no? That's where things happen in a very physical experience. So when you're dancing, you're relying to both of them, because this is art. Art is poetry. Poetry is that you are expressing, putting information in a sound, in an object, in a painting, in a movement, in a book. Maybe you're putting it just in a smile, in a garden, in your chocolate cake. You're putting that information that is coming from the depth of your own heart, of your own human kindness. Kindness, I mean humankind, it's a species, but the ness of that humankind is kindness. That is no doubt, okay? Because that's what human is about. That's what human is able to manifest, able to make happen, and maybe nobody else. That's why we imagine it's a God or something else, but we have to do it ourselves. And so when you are dancing, you are in that poetry, you're letting that poetry comes in. And so maybe the poetry comes from the surface, like a little bit underneath the superficie. Maybe there's still a little bit of sharks, things like that. So maybe your art comes from that place and it's very vivid and it's very passionate. But actually, you're already getting there, because the motherhood of the nature of your mind is just a little bit deeper. You're already getting there. You understand? There's not any division between that place that has movements and creates lots of different vivid phenomena, and that place in the depth that is completely quiet. They are existing together, and that's yourself. So you are learning how to dance and how to understand music and how to do different techniques, because you have this seed inside of yourself that really, since long time, it's like the premonition, anticipation of that fruit that is born with you. So you want to make that fruit available again and again, because that's what a fruit is, always again, no? And each fruit has the seed of the next tree. So you feel that and you want to make it happen. And so the whole creation of a solo is that you're creating each time the solo as a process that makes you more and more become something that you did not know. You had no idea, you didn't have a clue. And the deeper it comes from, the more surprising it is. Because you don't really own it, because in that depth, there's not any me. There's not really a you, but there's me and you, but it's not something different. Of course, poetry is not a place where you explain things. So even now, I don't want to explain it. You understand it. If you could listen to me 57 minutes, you're already able to understand that. Otherwise, you would not be listening. So that's what the technique is about. So the technique is that these fields of wisdom are places where you create a container in which the seed takes root. And each time you do it again, because that's how you start to get free from the habits that were like clouds over your sunshine. And then you just let it shine. And then sometimes clouds come back. That's okay. That's it. So that's how we work on it as a solo. And you really start to get in touch with that. It's intimate. So this is something that requires a certain engagement into a solitary process, and in the same time all the lonely experiences are full of all existent living beings from the past, the present, the future, because you get into the depth. But sometimes you are not able to get directly in the depth. So that's what it is about. How is it that the depth becomes completely not in opposition with the phenomena? So relative and absolute. I feel something incredibly unlimited, because actually it's my case. When I was a child, I felt something wonderful and limited, and everybody was in big problems all the time, and I was thinking, oh my God, where the hell did I end up? And then later I discovered that all these complications were actually present in my own frame, my own fabric. And I had to also filter that and work with that and respect that, and at the same time make it become something that is not anymore a shadow in the sense of being victim of my own process. I think I managed to explain quite enough for today. It was 1 hour and 26 seconds. Thank you very much. I really apologize if I did talk too quickly. I'm sorry, but I will really manage to get better with time. And this was the 5th video of the A category, which is about the foundations of the Danza Duende network. The B will be about the tools and the structures. And then the C will be about people who will present their own work under the lights of the 5 wisdoms.